All right, guys, I have been thinking about building a new workshop this spring, planning on it, and I thought, you know what? I don't think I've ever done a shop tour of my own. I've been watching shop tours and I've been watching building of, shops and kind of preparing to do my own, right? And I thought, you know what? I should document what I have and what I've been working out of for the last 17 or 18 years. So I am not a professional in any way. This is just my own personal, I'll call it hobby shop where I do, a lot of different things. And so I'm just going to start showing you and just prefacing this with, this is my first time through. This is by the seat of my pants, and I hope it comes out decently here. So I'm just going to start showing you stuff and take the camera off myself. So on that note, this is my shop and I honestly don't know where to begin. I do all sorts of different things. As you'll see shortly, I'm just kind of giving you the tour of the edge. This is normally where I'm about to show you where my saw is. I typically have a car parked here. This is a 2-car garage. I usually have 1 car parked in here, and then I've got 4 kids, one of them driving at this point. We've got a couple of other cars, and I'm sure more cars to show up here soon. So I've been into woodworking for quite a long time. This is the 2-car garage I work out of. Everything collapses quickly. This is not how I normally have it set up. This is what I'd call deployed. This is, I'll call it the centerpiece of that, where I've got a crappy bought off Craigslist a long time ago job saw that's probably been dropped a dozen times. And I custom built this workbench around it. It normally kind of where the miter saw stand is sitting right now, I normally have that parked here. And I normally have the miter saw stand parked right about here. And that makes it so I can park a car in here and I can access all of my tools. Maybe not use them, like using the table saw in its parked location. I could hook it up, but it wouldn't be too terribly useful there. So, table saw. This is a custom little vacuum setup that I built. Had an old Oric that I forget what was wrong with it, but I was able to pull the motor out of it, and with a you'll notice as we're going, I do not have central dust collection, mainly because I didn't know for a long time I didn't know how I want it set up, and honestly I'm still tweaking as we go. So I have little standalone units like this, or little buckets for dust collection. This works not that great. As you can see, I got a bag to put on the job saw, and you can see it's falling down right now. That's something I probably should fix here. You can see I cleaned it out on the regular to keep the mess down. But with that said, this job saw kind of set up. To do some finer woodworking, you do the 0 clearance insert. I have some other, if I want to run a dado stack, I've got other inserts to run that with, but honestly, I don't use a dado stack too often. I ended up getting a piece of butcher block top just to kind of complete the look. It doesn't really do a whole lot there. I guess it gives you something to set stuff on in the way, so then you have to move it when you want to use the fence, which is not necessarily ideal, but I will say the Incra fence is fantastic. Again, most of this has been put together off of, Craigslist back in the day. I guess it'd be Facebook Marketplace today that you'd be getting this kind of stuff, right? And anyway, you'll notice as we walk around, there's a lot of mixing and matching going on here because I'm not just a woodworker, but I've done a lot of metalworking, done a lot of work on cars, a lot of basic construction, kinds of things. So there's a mix and match. But back to the table saw, I suppose. I built this, outfeed table to go with it. I have it again in kind of the deployed setting. It's actually really easy to break down. Let's see if I can set this down. When I have it stowed, this makes it real nice to gain more space, whether you need that to be workspace or whether you just need it out of the way. So that's how I've done outfeed. You can easily run a 4x8 sheet over this thing. As you get to the end of the cut, you know, you're still well supported, but you know, the board basically falls off the edge of the table, you know, kind of teeter-totters off. If you're doing really fine work, that's not acceptable, but here that's suited my needs. Frankly, I don't break down 4x8 sheets on a table saw anymore. One of my favorite tools that I've acquired, track saw. Guys, I'll go on a little rant here for a few seconds. I won't pull the track out, but I store the track right here on the back of my miter saw stand. If you don't have a track saw, get a track saw. If you're doing any sheet work in particular, I even use it right now. I don't have a jointer. I honestly use it as a jointer. You know, I don't just use it to break down sheets. So, you know, I don't necessarily have any pieces handy at the moment. Well, you can see it buried back behind here. I've got some old reclaimed oak that I've used that track saw to joint and put boards together. So, one of the best buys I've made, woodworking wise, in quite a long time. So, I don't know what else to say about the table saw stand other than being in a small shop, guys. Any of you guys working in a small shop like this know you gotta have storage, and you can see that, you know, I guess I can start here on the end. You know, there's nail guns and you know, different saws and, you know, belt sanders and routers and jigsaws and all the stuff, you know, all the stuff you're gonna need. I guess still staying on the table saw itself, you know, you can see down here, you know, you got, you know, oh shoot, words. Gauge. So, oh, whatever that thing's called. I got a bunch of those kind of accessories to make the table saw useful. You got to have them. Likewise, there's sleds. I got sleds to use that you probably can't see that very well, but I've conveniently shoved various pieces different places that are easily accessible. So I guess the other piece of custom furniture that I've built here is the miter saw stand. Love this Bosch. For a long time I used a crappy, I guess I need to fix that, but I used a crappy, you know, just regular miter saw, 10-inch blade kind of thing. This thing was a revelation. I love it because you can put it up flat. Eventually in my shop, I'd like to have that thing flush against the wall, and I really like that articulating arm action. This saw has been wonderful for me. I can't say enough good things about it. You'll notice I do have a planer in here, just a typical DeWalt lunchbox style, whatever you want to call it. For the record, I don't like this planer attached to the miter saw stand. It's not at the right height. I would not replicate this. Anybody that's watching this video and like, man, I really like that miter saw stand, don't do that. I've got to figure out something else going forward. It sits too low, it imbalances the stand so it doesn't move quite as nicely. One of the nice things about this setup I do have is I can back the car out and have this set up in about 5 or 10 minutes, you know, ready to go, ready to actually do some work. That planer and its setup does not do that. I'm not complaining about the planer itself, although if you do have one of these, I will say if you have knives that aren't absolutely sharp, this thing does not have the horsepower to get it done. If I had to knock that tool at all, that would be it. As you go through, you know, everybody's got their opinions on drills and drivers and so forth. I've got a mishmash of all sorts of stuff here over the course of time. Started with a DeWalt 20 volt, no complaints really there. I've systematically been getting my kids into woodworking, and I would say the M12 stuff is really nice for that. They can't do a lot of damage fast with it. The tools are cheap, so if they do drop it, break it, whatever, not a huge deal. And so I'd say particularly for kids getting into stuff, or as a homeowner, if you're doing, I'll say, very basic things, they work well. I will say I don't have one of the fuel drivers. One of the things I'll mention is if you got this standard impact driver, again, not the fuel, not the brushless version, in my experience, let me get that into frame. These lag bolts, these power lags, and the Milwaukee 12 volt just doesn't have enough power. Again, if you have the brushless, maybe that's a different story. But I just tried one the other day and had to, you know, abandon that and go grab my DeWalt 20 volt stuff. That's that. Sticking, I guess, with mostly woodworking at the moment. I have, I'll call it my battery center set up here. You'll notice that, you know, Milwaukee M18 or M18 stuff shows up. That's mainly for the yard. I've got yard tools that are Milwaukee 18 volt. It'd be nice to be on one battery platform, but such as it goes. So what more to say about the woodworking side of it? You'll notice that there's layered storage. You know, I've got wood storage rack that's buried behind my bikes here. My bike carrier's mounted to that. This is at this point I'm just building stuff on top of stuff because I've been out of space for a long time out here. So that's the reason for a new shop, hopefully in the spring. There's cutoffs and storage and tools and all sort. You know, I've got some storage up here for long boards. Behind this little stand, which is really set up for automotive work, shop press and all of that, I'll kind of skip over that. You can kind of see through there I've got long clamps for doing woodworking stuff. I'm not going to bother to move that. I do use these stands. Let me set this thing down and see about setting this up in a way where you guys can see it. I'll set up one real fast just so that you can see them, but imagine having two. For doing work on sheets, you know, cut a sheet down, these have been fantastic. You know, it's just a 2x4 mounted on, I don't know if these guys are still even around. I don't know if you can see that very well, ruggedbuddy.com. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm not a professional YouTuber in any way, shape, or form. I bought these, crap, it's probably been 15 years ago. I think they're more for making like portable shooting rests. But I got two pairs of them to basically build folding sawhorses. And they've been great. Nice, stable, can easily put them side by side. I guess I'll get the other one out. They're easy to bring out, easy to deploy. Obviously you do it this way because you do enough cutting on these. I use these for assembly. You can see that I've used them for painting, staining. Obviously the 2x4 is sacrificial, so cutting into those is easy peasy. I mean, these are the original ones. You can think this one you can see I've had to put a patch panel because I at one point screwed up and cut all the way through the 2x4. But they've worked great for all of that. So that's what I think I'm kind of at the end of my story from a woodworking perspective. I could go through this tool chest is mainly loaded up with automotive type tools. And you got your typical stuff where you see this drawer coming open that you got files and sandpaper and all that kind of stuff. But this is mainly automotive, both mechanical and electrical kind of automotive. Back here in the corner, honestly, I mentioned dust collection earlier. I'll jump back to that. If, I mentioned this dust collector here. If I'm going to be making a lot of dust, a lot of times I'm using my shop vac with just a 5-gallon pail with one of these Tornado Vortex type collectors from Oneida, or however you pronounce their name. That works out great. It works wonderfully. I put a HEPA bag in the shop vac. I wish the shop vac was bigger and could, had more power. But it gets the job done. If I was a professional doing woodworking every day, I would not be happy with this solution. But I'm not. So it's been sufficient for my needs. I started back into this corner. I think I mentioned, fastener storage. I have more fasteners. I don't know that you can have enough fastener storage. This starts getting into the metalworking side. This is a TIG machine. Obviously you can do stick, and I don't think you can do anything else with it. But it's an oldie. I bought it out of a pawn shop, again, probably 15 years ago. I think it's a Miller Synchrowave 180. I've had zero trouble with it. When I first got it, I don't remember, I had a problem of some sort that I had to figure out, and once I got that figured out, it's been flawless ever since. It generates more power than I'll ever need. In fact, like my electrical plug here, at one point I patched into an electrical service for a dryer that would be on the other side of this wall. This is an attached garage, and that circuit's only good for 30 amp. I rarely ever go over that. To really give this welder, full power, you got to have a 50 amp service to it. So I did, a number of years ago. I guess I'm jumping around here, but a number of years ago, I did buy a plug-in hybrid that required me to. I know this seems tangential, but I have a plug-in hybrid that I charge in here. So I ran a new electrical service, and with this panel, I now have a 50 amp plug out here if I got to give it full use. So I just got to roll the machine over here and plug it in if I need to. I almost never need that, though. On occasion I do, but you got to be doing some pretty serious material to need to be up at that kind of current level. Otherwise, this is a standard workbench. It's not dedicated to anything in particular, but some woodworking, some metalworking. I've got an array of vices on it, and more than anything, just collects the parts that I'm going to be using for a particular job. Underneath, I've got a rolling cart set up. This holds a lot of my metalworking tools, grinders and sanders and vise, and custom made this one. Don't look too closely. Just using up old material, and it's honestly a fairly crappy cart, but it gets the job done, And for any of those of you that are into metalworking, this was a custom that I did too, that I used a couple of old rotors off of one of my trucks and found a bowling ball and got epoxy and Acme screws and all of that, and built this guy. I will tell you that using I don't use the articulation of the ball much at all. but I will tell you, doing a fair bit of TIG welding, and usually smaller projects, doing them on a tiny little table like this where I can just sit down here in a chair and have, you know, full access, you know, all the way around a workpiece. You know, if I was welding on, you know, this drill or something, having full access, not that you'd weld on that drill, but you get the idea. And I've got, you know, handy, you know, clamps, you know, to do whatever I need. And if you've noticed, as we're going around, I've got, you know, clamps and jigs and fixtures, you know, just kind of scattered about the shop, you know, for, you guys probably recognize this from YouTube. This is, I forget the guy's name, but, you know, Fireball tool. For doing some heavier tube projects, that has definitely come in handy. So otherwise, guys, again, I know I've mentioned it a number of times, all custom built shelves here. You can never have too much storage in a small shop like this. You can see there's a lot of automotive stuff. There's some old woodworking stuff up there. You know, I could start going down the shelves, but you know, it's a mixture of a mixture of stuff that you end up needing for a small shop like this. If you guys want me to go tool by tool and start giving my opinions on that kind of stuff, I can, but I don't think that makes sense in the context of this video. This could end up being a multi-hour rant if I went tool by tool. But hey, guys, if nothing else, I do want to note that I'm just one guy in a hobbyist shop. Any of you guys out there that think, oh, well, all I've got is a 2-car garage or 1-car garage even. I mean, not that I'd want to, but I think I could work out of a 1-car garage if required. This is your standard 2-car residential attached garage. And I can pretty much do anything out of it that I can think of. Don't get me wrong, there's a reason I'm getting ready to build a shop. I would like a lot more space and a lot more capability. There's additional things I want to get. Heck, honestly, I've got some tools that I haven't even gotten out of the box because I don't have anywhere to put it in this shop. So I'm not saying that more space isn't nice, but I am saying, hey, here's a 2-car garage that I've successfully worked out of for 18 years. Again, not professionally, hobbyist, fixing cars, that kind of stuff. So I hope this video is, well, if nothing else, this is documenting what I have and what I've been using for the last 18 years. I hope it was informative. Perhaps it'll be helpful in some way. Feel free to leave a comment. I'm going to try to do a lot better job of paying attention to the comments in the future. And actually respond to them. So have a good day, guys.